Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more Political Excess. Today, let's recap the primary results and the runoffs from yesterday, Tuesday, June 28th. There's a ton of races. I can't go over each one. I'm going to try to just hit the main highlights. I'll scroll through here. Feel free to pause if you'd like. And let's start in Colorado. In the U.S. House, in the 3rd District, Lauren Boebert, the incumbent, she held off a challenge from Don Coram. She won that by about 30% and is heavily favored in the fall. In the 5th District, incumbent Doug Lamborn. He secured that nomination with under 50% of the vote, but he is heavily favored to win that seat in November as well. In the 7th District, it is Eric Odland who is the winner, under 50% as well, but he will go on to face Brittany Peterson, and that is a district where the Democrats are favored, but the Republicans could potentially pick it up. In the 8th District, the Republicans have State Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer as their nominee to go up against Yadira Caraveo in the fall. That will be a close race. It's up in the air. Republicans are going to try to pick that one up as it's an open seat. In the statewide races for governor, on the Republican side, Heidi Ganahl, she won that nomination with about 53% of the vote. She'll go up against Jared Polis, where he is heavily favored to win. In the U.S. Senate primary for the Republicans, Joe O'Dea, he will be the nominee, and he defeated State Representative Ron Hanks by about 10%. He will go on to face incumbent Democrat Michael Bennet, where Bennet does have a clear advantage at this point. Let's move over to Illinois and go to the 6th District, where two incumbent Democrats were battling it out, and Sean Casten, the more moderate candidate, he beat Marie Newman by a wide margin, and he'll go on to face, it looks like, Keith Pekow in November for the Republicans. 7th District, Danny Davis, the incumbent Democrat, he held off a challenge in a close race from Keena Collins. In the 13th District, the Democrats did nominate Nikki Budzinski as expected. On the Republican side, it was a very close race. Regan Deering is the apparent winner there, and that will be a fairly closely watched race in November. In the 15th District, two incumbent Republicans were going at it. Mary Miller, she was the winner there by about 14 or 15 points over more moderately regarded Rodney Davis. That will be a safe Republican seat in the fall. And in the 17th District, this is the chance for Republicans to flip this district. Democrats have Eric Sorensen, he was the winner there, and Republicans have Esther Joy King, who was the nominee back in 2020. Over in the statewide races in Illinois, for governor, on the Republican side, Darren Bailey, he won with about 57% of the vote. He was endorsed by Donald Trump recently. He will go on to face incumbent J.B. Pritzker, and Pritzker at this point has at least a moderate edge. In the U.S. Senate, Republicans have Kathy Salvi as their nominee to take on Tammy Duckworth, the incumbent Democrat. That was a close race there, but in November, Duckworth is heavily favored to win. Let's go on to New York and check out their primary for governor there. On the Democratic side, Kathy Hochul, the incumbent, won that easily. That's no surprise. On the Republican side, also not really a surprise, Congressman Lee Zeldin, he is the nominee there with about 44% of the vote. Those two are going to go at it in the fall. It will be an uphill battle for the Republicans, but there's plenty of time for them to try to build up some momentum. And if you're curious about the lieutenant governor's race for New York, on the Democratic side, Antonio Delgado, he won that very easily, and he will face Allison Esposito in November. Let's go on to Oklahoma, and in the 2nd District in the U.S. House, that will be an open seat. The race is going to a runoff, and that will be on August 23rd. The top two finishers as of now are Avery Fricks and Josh Rasheen. That is especially notable as both of those top two candidates have under 15% of the vote. So whoever wins that runoff will win that seat in November, as it is a deep red district. In the statewide races for governor, it will be Democrat Joy Hoffmeister against incumbent Republican Kevin Stitt. Stitt definitely has a heavy advantage going into the November election. For the U.S. Senate special election, that is actually heading to a runoff for the Republicans between Markwayne Mullin and T.W. Shannon. Mullin did get well over 40% of the vote, so we'll see how that one turns out on August 23rd. And for the regular U.S. Senate election, the Democrats, they're heading to a runoff between Madison Horn and Jason Bollinger. The winner there will go on to take on incumbent James Langford, who is very heavily favored to win. And one other thing to mention here for Oklahoma, for Attorney General, incumbent Republican who was appointed, John O'Connor, he was very narrowly defeated by Gentner Drummond by under 2 points. I don't know the specifics of that race, but that's certainly worth mentioning. Over in Utah in the U.S. House, I'll just scroll through here real quick. There's not really any upsets. Some of the margins might be closer than people might expect, but nothing really to mention in any of these 4 districts. For the U.S. Senate in Utah, incumbent Republican Mike Lee, he has that nomination wrapped up with over 60% of the vote. He will go on to face Democrat-backed independent Evan McMullen, where Mike Lee is moderately to heavily favored to win that. Let's move over to the Mississippi runoffs, where in the U.S. House, in the 3rd district for the Republicans, Michael Guest, the incumbent, he did hold on there, and he fended off a challenge from Michael Cassidy pretty easily. But in the 4th district, incumbent Republican Stephen Palazzo, he was defeated by Mike Ezell, and he will go on to very likely win in November. Let's go over to South Carolina, where the Democrats had one runoff for U.S. Senate, and Crystal Matthews, she was the winner over Catherine Fleming Bruce by about 10 to 11 points. She will go on to face incumbent Republican Tim Scott, where he is very likely favored to win. And finally, in Nebraska, there was a special election there in the 1st district. It was much closer than I anticipated. Mike Flood, the Republican, did win over Patty Pansing Brooks by only about 7 points or so. People might point to the Supreme Court decision. They might point to it being an atypical election, low turnout, those kinds of things. It's hard to really say, but in the fall, this should be an easy Republican hold. A little surprising nonetheless. So that is a quick recap of everything. Some of the races have not been called yet. There's plenty more races to look at statewide. Feel free, definitely go through all of them, check out which states you're interested in. But those are the highlights from everything that happened last night. Let me know which of these races you're most interested in watching. Which one of these were you most surprised by? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.